Hey, welcome to Ask Jimmy the Dean. Today's question is, why are Christians so judgmental? I think the spirit of the question, the way it was asked, might be asked a little more open-minded than that, where it's like, why do Christians seem so judgmental? And let me just begin by saying, what a great question. I think I want to begin by framing two words, and we'll use them to try to understand why this might appear to be the case that Christians are so judgmental. And the words are proposition and posture. A proposition means the things that you are trying to propose into the world. They're your beliefs, they're the things that you think apply. Posture is the way you carry your beliefs. So I think at the very heart of the question, before I get too far in, is the question is much a question of posture. Why do Christians or their propositions not affect them in such a way that they carry their propositions in less judgmental ways? We're going to talk a little bit more about that toward the end, but first let's talk about propositions. Propositions are what any social movement has. In other words, they have beliefs. I don't care if that's the Sierra Club, I don't care if it's Amnesty International, the Baptist church on the corner, the mosque on the other end, or even your local chamber of commerce that you might join, the union you're a part of at work. These are all known as social movements. Now, social movements believe that there are a set of core beliefs that they carry that everyone should likely carry. They're called a universal set of beliefs, right? Everyone has them. And trust me, the Sierra Club, in its deep quest to make sure that microplastics are not showing up in our food for the next 400 years, they believe that is a belief that you should have too. Therefore, it's a universal belief. Christians or a mosque or a Muslim would have similar beliefs that they believe about the world, and they're suggesting to you you should believe them too. So first of all, the challenge with any social movement is that it can come across as opinionated or even judgmental, meaning it has a judgment on the way things should be. So I want to just slow down, first of all, that whole thing about using the word judgment as ultimately a negative thing. In many ways, sometimes a judgment about the world is a way that you think that if people were living, the world would have a better common good. Christians have it, Marxists have it, all the way down to certain forms of ecologists have it. And I think it's something that we need to honor, that when you join a social movement, you've already bought into a set of beliefs or systems that you are propagating in the world, and people don't like to have systems put on them very often, and therefore it can come across as judgmental. Of course, you add to that that Christians not only have a set of what we call universal beliefs, but they believe that there's a divine being with a personality that has opinions behind their beliefs. So it's not as easy for them to sit and think, oh wow, are our beliefs growing or changing? They feel like they're actually representing the divine in the world, and therefore the universals that they're representing come with a certain kind of authority that go beyond merely a collective group of people, one particular union or social group or one particular denomination. They actually are attempting to represent universals that come from a divine being's opinion. Of course, you and I can sit and go, wow, that's really hard to interpret what the divine being's opinion is, but many Christian or Judeo-Christian groups really, really do believe that they're representing something about the divine in the world, and that adds a certain kind of strength or vehemence to the arguments that they carry. The third thing I want to remind you is that social movements, particularly religious social movements, they can't just move on from their history as easy as other social movements do. Meaning, if you're sitting as a Christian right now, you've got to answer to people like Thomas Aquinas, Augustine, St. Teresa of Avila, maybe Martin Luther. You have to sit and you know that I can't come up with an opinion just in this moment, given whatever public or social scrutiny there is on my propositions, and decide that I'm going to pivot easily off the history of the church. And I'll remind you that because that religious movements, and in this case Christianity, have to carry a long religious history, we can't pivot as easy as some progressives or liberals or even, let's just say, moderates would like to see religious movements pivot. Now, of course, there are some streams within Christianity that would have adopted much more progressive views, believing that most past systems were oppressive or naive or possibly even ignorant, and therefore we should move on quickly. But in general, the religious consensus is it's kind of glacial, right? Because we have to answer to something that's gone before us. It's a form of a traditionalism argument that we hope that that can be respected at least for its sincere desire to honor the opinions of its elders and that which have gone before them. But of course, that can result in a deep sense of judgment over current trends, etc. Last but not least, I want to get back to this phrase of like proposition and posture, because I think it's what really lies at the bottom of this. I believe in culture today, we don't mind if people have opinions. We're more concerned about how they carry those opinions in public. And I think one of the reasons we can carry particular disappointment to something like Christianity is the fact that we look at its Christ as its founder, Jesus of Nazareth, and we say to ourselves, wow, the way in which that individual, that God man carried propositions in the world is as powerful as the actual propositions he was carrying, right? We look at it and see there is someone who carried it in such a way that we can honor the actual way that he carried truth with grace or truth with love. That's what we're longing to see in people. And that's why I think this is a great question, because I think some of us who get involved in social movements, by the way, not just Christianity, you can get involved in Amnesty International and have a posture that's off, etc. I think that we can tend to carry our propositions sometimes in ways that offend the other, because ultimately it is about the encounter with the other and the conversation about actually truth and what we actually believe in the world, ranging anywhere from the way we want to care for the created order all the way to we think we have to carry out our moral life. So just a reminder that yes, there is no doubt that people who are a part of long social movements like Christianity carry a bit of an opinion in the world. But I'm crying out for all of us to carry it in ways that honor our God and Creator among us. Thanks. Thanks for asking Jimmy the Dean. If you want to know more about what we're up to, go to jimmythedean.com/ask, and we'll answer some of your questions, or /subscribe. And you can keep track of our work. Take care.